there was a called up going on then of young men, and that went by age groups, and my group had not gone, but it wasn't very long before it did, although I was deferred for a bit because I was working for the Roots Group in Acton, and it was a car factory, Sunbeam Talbots, and of course went over to making tanks and things like that. So I was deferred for a bit as a war worker. So although I was 21 when I went in. So so called up to South Wales, place called Lydstep on the south coast. And well, that was that. And then from there I went to Plymouth, the Royal Citadel, the castle there, and did more training on big guns. And then shot down to, got posted down to Deal in Kent, which young Pat knows all about. Don't you, dear?
I do.
Yeah.
You answer the gentleman, otherwise he'd be here a week. Bless him. I know how he digresses away on a story.
Pardon?
I said, I know how you digress away on a story, don't you? Memories come flooding back, Bert.
Yeah.
They do.
Yes, and we had 2 6-inch naval guns on the beach in the castle. This was anti-German invasion, of course. But, of course, they had to be manned 24/7, so as the local young ladies used to say, not bothering going with them out of the castle, they were always bloody tired. Which we were, because sometimes you do 2 duty nights, one after the other, and you could just about walk at the end of them. And you got an afternoon off there, but you went straight to bed anyway.
Were you worried that Hitler would invade?
Well, we all were, yes, but one of those things you try to not think about it, but when you looked, everywhere along our south coast, there were steel posts driven in the sea with chains and that between them, and landmines hung on the post so that if anybody touched those, it wouldn't be very healthy. And of course, we had we had 2 6-inch naval guns in emplacements on the beach, and of course that was for any seaborne invasion. But of course the Luftwaffe kept us a bit busy coming over and making a nuisance of themselves. But yes, well, I think that's that. You want to ask me another, as the programme used to say.
Did the Luftwaffe ever attack the places you were stationed at?
Yes, in Deal Castle, yes. And they were up and down the beach. And I remember it vividly at the time because we all had to take turns. In one of the castle towers, we had a Bren machine gun with a special, because the Bren only took about 30 rounds in a magazine, and we had special big round ones that took 300, and so you didn't have to keep reloading. And this was for aircraft, of course, because it was very difficult to hit because something's going 300 miles an hour plus up and down. It's difficult to follow them. And of course you had to be careful. When I was following one, a Fokker Wolf, along the front, and he went up towards Sandwich, and there's I don't know whether it's still the Royal Marine Barracks there. You wouldn't know, Pat,
I
would you?
wouldn't know for
No.
definite, no.
But they were there then, training the Royal Marines. And I was following this German fighter. I could see my tracers going. And he went by and I followed him, and then I saw my tracers go. They had, at the Royal Marine Barracks, they had a clock tower. And the cherry was right in front of it, and I saw my tracers going straight into their clock. So I often wonder what the Royal
You
Marines
messed their clock up there. Well,
You mentioned something a few minutes ago about an officer's mess being attacked. Could you tell me what happened there?
what, in Deal?
Yes.
Well, they used the bombers. They were fighter bombers. The Messerschmitts usually came over at sea level, so the radar didn't pick them up. And they'd have one bomb slung underneath. And they'd obviously planned it because there were plenty of planes coming over, photographing, so they knew about us as we did about them, I expect, if not more. And it was specially built for them on the side of the castle, and it was finished one day, and the next day Messerschmitt came over and put a bomb straight in it. Oh, we gunners had to laugh a bit, I'm afraid, because we were sleeping in the dungeons of Deal Castle, so anything like that where the officers had. But they did have rooms in the castle, actually. But
did anyone get hurt, Bert, when they...
No, they didn't,
officers get
strangely
hurt?
enough.
Right,
No.
They were just lucky.
Yeah, well, we were lucky, yes. And because I remember I was on guard there, because there was a drawbridge, there was a proper moat there, you know, and no water in it, of course, because we used to write home sometimes, say we've been sunbathing in the moat. Well, it was only grass. And the drawbridge was still there, because that was the only way of getting in. And I was on guard there one day, and at the end, and a couple of chaps came up, young men, youngish men, and introduced themselves. And they were from an American newspaper. They weren't in the war then. And they come over to, for an article be published in their paper, and I had to go back because the rest of the guard were in the guard room. Yeah. I had to go back and report that they were there. I couldn't speak to them without the guard commander or the officers, and they were very interested in because they weren't in the war then.
Can you tell me the kind of training that the Royal Artillery had?
Well, we had normal foot drill because we had to be foot soldiers as well, and we had something. It was like a real gun, and it was called a dummy loader, and you fed the shells in, and with a proper weight. Because a 16 shell weighed about 100 weight. So you didn't drop it on your toe, and that was part of your training, opening and shutting the breech, and making out it was a real. And then we did go to twin 6-pounders, a small shell, and there were two guns side by side, and two gun crews, one working together on either side, and there were small 6-inch diameter shells, and you get these two going, and they were particularly against the German E-boats because they were like MTBs, motor torpedo boats, and with the twin 6-pounder, it was quite a small shell, and there'd be two guns side by side, and there'd be number 1s and 2s, and there was number 2 always pushed the shell into the breech, keeping your thumbs away, and with the left hand there was a lever, and the lever fired it, and by then your man behind you had another shell under your arm, so you keep quite a rapid rate of fire, and you could spot your shells going into the water because it was against the German motor torpedo boats that used to harass our shores. And but once again, I did it all in training. But well, I never did that in action, but I did the big guns in action. Yes, right. But once again, I graduated. I was a wireless operator, and I learned Morse code and messages and wireless things was my forte. I was a fully trained gunner. I could go on any gun as well. But we used to ask some of the regular soldiers who'd been in the beginning and been in France and got thrown out, and we used to say, "What's it like being in action, Sarge?" And I remember one regular soldier, "Best time of your life, mate." I'd query that a bit, but depends how you came out the other end, wouldn't it?